Hey everyone, how's it going today? Coach Danny Alvarez, Jiu-Jitsu, Arlington, Texas. Coming back at you with some more Metal Vitamins today. Caught something on my playlist when I was working out earlier. Catch a lot of things, but one in particular was closing the gap. Close the gap. What does that mean? That means we all have something that we're trying to achieve, trying to get, something that we're going after. At least we all should, right? We should all have some sort of goals that we're setting for ourselves, trying to achieve, because we shouldn't be the same as we were yesterday, the same as we were last year, so on and so forth. Something that we're trying to go and get, you got to close the gap, because what happens? We see other people on social media or whatever, man, look at what they're doing. Look at what so-and-so accomplished or what they achieved. It could be, anything. It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu. It could be anything that you're wanting to get, but you're behind. You started late. Whatever the case may be, everyone has a different circumstance. I know, like for me, I started jiu-jitsu late because jiu-jitsu came late to me, you know what I mean? Compared to like my kids' classes now, you can do jiu-jitsu at 4 years old or 3 years old. And, I didn't find jiu-jitsu until I was like 18 years old. That's when I first saw it, okay? So I'm behind, But as time went on, it's like, I had set certain goals for myself, and it was like, in order for me to achieve these goals, I got to do other things that other people aren't willing to do, I would catch a lot of flack throughout the years of, like, for me, people would always tell me that I overtrain, Again, I train 2 sessions a day. On top of that, I'm running or I'm lifting weights on those same days. Alvarez, why don't you take days off? Why don't you give your body a break? You're going to get hurt. You're going to injure yourself. You're going to, at some point, your body's going to break down, so on and so forth. But in my mind was like, well, I'm so behind. Some of these guys that I'm competing against, I'm talking about, like, let's say a competition goal or a goal I have for competition. Some of these guys that I'm competing against, they've been training longer than me. They've been competing longer than me. They have different level of training partners, that are higher level than mine, right? So I was like, obviously if I go jiu-jitsu with them, I'm still going to be behind because they got the edge on me. They've been doing it longer. They've been training longer. They've been competing longer. They've been winning more tournaments than me. So for me, I had to do the extra things. Okay, what can I do outside of jiu-jitsu that can help me, like, just get a little closer and a little closer and a little closer? So for me, it was running. Now, people out there, they're going to, they're not big on running. Like, what are you running from? All these, jokes that people make. But my conditioning, my cardio has always helped me give me that little bit of an edge over the people that were more experienced than me, that were better than me. My hustle, on the mat, the pace that I can push helped me win a lot of matches. Maybe the jiu-jitsu was better than mine, but on that given day, my grind, my push, my hustle, the conditioning that I have was better than theirs. So I was able to outlast them and push them to a place maybe they weren't familiar with, or maybe they just couldn't handle at a certain point in the match. When they started to fade, I'm starting to pick the level up even more. So I had to do those kind of things. So I'm doing extra runs, I'm eating right when other people are eating bad, I'm lifting weights when other people aren't lifting weights, So I had to do those kind of extra things to find a way to get a little closer to some of my opponents that I was trying to, for a goal that I had to achieve. And one of them that I did achieve is right behind me, which is, the number 1 black belt, Master 3 in the world, number 1. In order for me to do that, I had to do a lot of extra things that even on days where I was sore, tired, beat up, didn't feel like training, like just whatever, I made myself do it anyways. I made myself show up. I made myself, joints are hurting. Again, you kind of get that thing in your mind, well, maybe they are right. Maybe I am tearing my body up. Maybe I should listen to, but that's when you're tired and weak, right? When you're tired and weak and you're hungry and you're cutting weight or and your body's all beat up, those kind of things start to creep into your mind. And you got to remember, man, like, you're trying to close a gap, because the minute you slow down, that gap starts to get bigger, right? So I had to do a lot of extra things that I know a lot of other people weren't willing to do to get closer to them. And it worked. It worked out in a lot of different scenarios with a lot of different things. I mean, business, all kind of stuff, right? So whatever the goal is out there that you have to just really look back at yourself and say, what else can I do more to get me a little bit closer to the thing that I'm trying to achieve. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be easy sometimes, but it's just going to, if that's what you really want, if you have a goal out there that you really, really want to have, then you're going to have to go through some tough places and go through some tough things to go and get that. So not only for me was I doing the extra runs and doing extra rounds after class and doing extra training sessions or whatever. Now I got to go and compete against these guys and do the things I had to get past them to get to the goal that I want. So not only preparing for it, but now you got to go in there and shake hands and battle these guys, some of the best in the world at what we do, to go and achieve that goal. I have a couple students that really inspire me. I've had like a little bit of a break. Like I said, things have changed for me a little bit. But I have a couple white belts that, man, they're doing 2-a-days, I just see them here more and more than I do some of the other people. And what's starting to happen is that gap from a white belt to a blue belt is starting to close. A couple of these guys have only got like 6 months of training in. And, I start to see them kind of getting closer and closer to these blue belts and maybe even some purple belts, catching them slipping sometimes because they're putting in that extra work. And I'm like, man, I'll see them at a 6 a.m. class. I'll see them at a 10:30 class. Then I'll see them at night at 7 p.m. I'm like, man, those kind of things, like, you don't have to be some high-level black belt or somewhere to inspire me. I get inspired by some students, like I said, that are white belts with 6 months of training, and something inside of their mind, inside of their heart, or something's like, I want to get good at this. I want to get better. So what do I got to do? I got to get up earlier. I got to go to these training sessions and do this extra work. And it's really just a great thing to watch, because I gravitate towards people like that. Like, I feed off of that. Like, I start to ask them questions like, hey, what are you eating? What are you reading? What are you doing? What makes you do what it is that you're doing? I have another individual, 6 a.m. class. He's a bigger guy. You don't really see too many guys close to 300 pounds pulling guard, working on their guard game. Well, this individual reached out. He's like, what can I do to get better? Blah, blah, all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, for one, you got to show up. But two, work on your guard. Being that size, close to 280, 300 pounds, whatever, it's kind of easy. Gravity's on your side, man. You're bigger than most people to be on top, be a top player. This guy has been working for months and months and months on his bottom game. He's shaking hands and he's pulling guard. His jiu-jitsu on the bottom is just starting to get ridiculous. So to have a blue belt like that's 280 pounds or so, somewhere in that range, hitting omoplata sweeps and working all kind of half guard sweeps and stuff like that, and pulling guard. Now he's starting to put guys in the mount. He's starting to put guys in side control on him. Start on my back, like starting off in really bad position. He's closing the gap. He's closing the gap because he's doing these extra things that are helping him get close. Because what do we do all the time? A lot of times when we train, at least for the jiu-jitsu guys, is we want to be in the best position possible that's comfortable to us. We want to play the game that's more comfortable to us because that's where we feel the best at. No one really wants to have to start over and try a new game where you got to learn things all over again. This guy completely emptied out the cup, starting off in bad positions, working off his back. Again, to see a guy that size working on his jiu-jitsu is inspiring to me. And again, you don't have to be some guy that's been with me that long or high-level black belt to inspire me. I watch individuals. I like to people watch a lot of time and see people's, just watch them do their work. See who they go and pick as training partners and stuff like that. So anyways, just something that I heard on my playlist earlier, something I'm thinking about was on my mind. So whatever it is that you're trying to do, you have to close a gap. How do you close a gap? You got to do things that other people aren't really willing to do, and you got to get in there and do them. And not just when you feel good. You got to do them when you don't feel good. You got to do them when you just like, not today, and you go today anyways. I know what that feels like. I know what it's like to cut weight, be hungry, starving, and you gotta do the work anyways. It all pays off. But in that transition, it's ugly. It's a little horrific. Like, it's not a lot of fun in there sometimes. But if you really want what you really want, you got to go through those things. So anyways, want to drop that in your ear today. So whatever it is that you got out there, do the extra work, close the gap. We'll catch you guys next time. All right, have a great day.